It seems like it's been 40 weeks since you got 40 winks. Your back pain? Unbearable. Tossing, turning, trying to find that pain-free position. And that's the moment you realize you can't spend another waking moment putting off treatment.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for spine care, with a ton of surgical and non-surgical treatments for back pain. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 717, Daily Weigh-In, How Do I Become a Personal Trainer?
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I'm Amanda Valentine, returning guest for maybe 50-something, maybe 60-something episodes now?
1 million.
Wow, my God. Well, that's funny that you've been on 1 million episodes when we're only in the 700s.
Speed it up.
Yeah, right?
It's probably 50, 60, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it might be up to 60 somewhere now. It was 50-something last time I checked. But Josh Garrett, personal trainer, owner of Cincy 360 Fitness, and my boss. So we get to say that now.
Yeah. Woohoo.
You know what I was thinking about the other day before we get into this topic that was just because I was thinking about us recording this podcast because I did get asked the question, you know, what's the process of becoming a personal trainer, especially since I have just gone through this process and wanted to have this conversation with you about it. Here we are having this conversation, recording this in September of 2001, when we go back to the first episodes that you've been on this podcast, which was in the fall of actually it was like exactly 3 years ago, fall of 2018. And I was working at the radio station, and you used to come to the radio station like once a week to come on the podcast. I'm like, man, that seems like a million years ago of like you coming to the radio station once a week to record the podcast with me. And now we have a podcast studio at the gym, and I'm a personal trainer. It's just so weird.
Yeah, life works in weird ways.
Right? Could you imagine that as you were coming to the radio station to record this podcast with me? Like, oh, well, one day Amanda's going to work at the gym, and we're going to record a podcast about becoming a personal trainer after Amanda's been a trainer at the gym all year.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, and that's what, in business you have like, whoa, what's your 5-year plan? It's like, who knows? Like, think about 5 years prior to where you're at right now. Like, life is completely different. Like, you couldn't anticipate half of the stuff that happened, 75% of the stuff that happened.
Right.
So
I mean, just even take COVID out of the conversation. Right. Anything else that happens in life.
Just a normal life. Like, that's a whole nother element to it. I mean, I think you need to have landmarks, and you need to have some sort of, metrics that you're shooting for, but as far as like a detailed 5-year plan, like you have no clue what's going to come up.
Well, right. Well, and it's so funny that being asked this question, I got asked this question by multiple people in the past couple of weeks about becoming a personal trainer. And some of these people already have full-time jobs in another profession. And they're like, hey, I think it's time for a change.
Yeah.
Health and fitness has changed my life through their own weight loss journey or their own journey to become healthier people. And they're just like, I'm passionate about this. I'm thinking about turning this into a career, which is what I did. And I mean, you did too. You had another job before you were a personal trainer, right? And opening a gym. And so I guess that's kind of the temperature of a lot of people right now too, is I think because of COVID is what I'm doing when you think of your job is taking up most of your time, if not all of your damn time.
Right.
Is this really fulfilling me? Is this moving me forward? Am I feel like I'm fulfilling my own purpose? And really taking a step back and looking at that and being like, well, what would be something that would be a good life change that would make sense? And everybody that's reached out to me is, well, I don't know the ages of everyone, but I would say like nobody's like 21.
Right.
They've already done something for a while and they're like looking for a shift.
And those are always like really, good people to get behind because they've been through, they're not just looking to have the title of, oh, I'm a personal trainer. Like they truly want to help people and they want to like do it the right way. You know, it's always cool to hear people like that rather than just somebody that's kind of lost in life and they're just, you know, they work out 5-6 days a week and they're 21 and they're shredded and they're like, well, I'm going to go get certified and that way I can become a personal trainer. And it's like, I think you might be coming at it from the wrong lens, but
well,
not saying that they're bad trainers, just.
Yeah. Well, in your experience of everybody that you've worked at, working in box gyms, owning your own gym and being a personal trainer, who do you see more as personal trainers? Those people that have had a life change and they're like, okay, this is a profession I'm choosing versus I'm kind of a gym rat and I would just want to get paid to hang out in the gym and train other people.
Like who are better trainers?
No. Who do you see more of? Like what kinds of people are more of the personal trainers? Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
I would say more in like the box gym setting or the commercial gym setting. That's going to be more of like your younger gym rats that are just, you know, they got certified and they just need kind of like a part-time job while they're in school or whatever the case may be. That's kind of what I saw more in the commercial end of things. I think once you get into like the independent gyms and the people that own their own business, I think those are going to be more of your established people that are looking to truly help people and make changes for people in their life.
Yeah.
You know,
So what would you suggest the process be of somebody that's, you know, in particular, the multiple people that have reached out to me in the past couple weeks that are like, hey, I've been on my own health journey. This has completely changed my life. I really want to not only have the more knowledge base for myself, but I would like to turn this into a profession, either part-time or full-time. What would that process look like? Where would you start? I
mean, I would definitely start with the certification process, you know, go through one of the top, I think there's top 8 certifications that are like nationally known. There's a bunch of them out there, obviously. Yeah. But NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, those are going to be a really good certification. ACE is a really good certification. NSCA is a really good certification.
ACSM
is a really good. Yeah, help me out with these.
Those are the main ones I know.
ISSA is a good certificate. It's a good like entry level certification. NFPT, I wasn't a huge fan of that PTA Global was a really good certification. That was one that you know, you want something that has a little bit more applicable stuff in it. Like a lot of them are just, if everybody was a robot, here's how you would train people. Right?
Yeah.
And that's not applicable because there's the human element to it as well. And I feel like PTA Global hit on that one pretty well.
What certification?
The Czech Institute has really good certifications. I mean, that's going to be high level. You're gonna earn it on that one.
With the Czech certifications, though, is that just for a certified personal trainer, or that's beyond just becoming a certified personal trainer?
Yeah, they have everything over there. It's like a holistic wellness coach to a trainer. They kind of go in depth, and all the certifications are going to have different sub certifications underneath of those.
Yeah,
like you have the exercise. The weight loss specialist.
Yeah, so I have NASM. I have NASM certified personal trainer, and under NASM, which I went backwards. Like I have these other certifications. You got the
specialized version.
Well, yeah, before I went and did, which I'm going to have to get more too, just to keep my, certified personal trainer. That, I mean, I have to start probably working on that next year. But the other certifications I have through NASM are weight loss specialist and behavior change specialist. But then, and I know NASM has their own nutrition certification as well, but I didn't do that. I went through precision nutrition. That was recommended to me by multiple dietitians that have been on this podcast because I was floating around the idea several years ago while I was still recording this podcast and I was still at the radio station of going back to school for dietetics, and all the dietitians I chatted with are like, yeah, don't do that unless you just want to work in a hospital setting, which I don't. They're like, if you want to coach people and help people with nutrition, you should do precision nutrition. And that was brought up over and over again. And so that's what I went through. I have the PN1 nutrition certification. And I really like that process because it is intense. Like the textbook is like 1,000 pages. And I've read every single page of the textbook. And you go through, you know, the testing process of that. And I thought it was really in depth. And I liked that it wasn't easy, because it means if somebody has that certification, like you worked for it, you cared about it. And so I don't really know anything about the NASM nutrition one, but I know that's a question people have too, is how do you become like a certified nutrition coach or nutritionist? And that's what I went through. And they only like let people in twice a year. So it's like build that exclusivity to it. Yeah. And so I think total that one for me, which I bought the textbook and all that stuff in 2018. And then it took me a year to finish it because I was just too busy at the radio station to be able to do it. But I want to say with that nutrition certification, as well as with a certified personal trainer certification, there's a whole, you need to talk about scope of practice. By having a nutrition certification, it does not make you a registered dietitian. Right. Like, you are not allowed to prescribe diet plans. If somebody's like, I have diabetes, it is not within your scope of practice to work with that person. I mean, you can, but you're not supposed to. Or cholesterol or any of those things. Those are for the role of a registered dietitian. And I say same thing with a certified personal trainer. That's kind of weird too, because you can open your own gym and not be certified. Right. Like if you are hiring a personal trainer, that's a question I think you have to kind of ask instead of just assume they have one. I think most gyms require you to have some level of certification, but that's not to say all of them do. Right. And so that's where I think this industry is interesting, because it's not like I could just walk in and be a doctor. But like, you could just walk in and, open a CrossFit gym if you feel like it. Right. And so that's kind of left upon the consumer to do some research to know how qualified the people that you're paying to help you do that is, and whether that's nutrition or fitness. And I think that's where it can get kind of dicey and scary, and where you get into the flood of social media that everybody slaps the title of coach on them, and you don't know what are their qualifications, like what makes them an expert in being a coach.
And I don't like people that they've done it themselves, but they've never coached anyone on how to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I worked out, through college, and I knew how to work out for myself. And when I first became a personal trainer, I was giving people my workouts, and it was just destroying people. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, this is how you work out, you know? But I wasn't accommodating the client. I wasn't meeting the client where they were at. I was giving them what I thought fitness was. I wasn't listening to the client, and understanding where they were at on the spectrum of fitness, and then building the program, either progressing or regressing the exercises as needed based on their ability level. It was more of just like, all right, here's what I'm doing this week. Here's what you guys should be doing, So, and that's where Instagram and the social media stuff is just like, cool, that's what you're doing. That doesn't mean that's what everyone should be doing. Yeah. It was like back when I was coming up through, my fitness journey back in the day, it was like Muscle and Fitness, and you would read what bodybuilders were doing. And then I would go and take their workouts and apply that to myself as an 18-year-old kid that was still going to school, not eating the way that they were eating, not sleeping the way that they were sleeping, not getting massages on a regular basis like they were. And I was just driving my nervous system into the ground because it was somebody else's program that I was applying to myself. Their goals, my goals, completely different, but yet I was applying the same modality that they were using, trying to get the goal that I was trying to achieve. And that's just, it's a recipe that's not going to work out in your favor. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are doing in today's society, of just, well, this is what I do. And then they give it to everybody else. And then it's like, well, this is what everybody should be doing. And it's like, well, you got to meet people where they're at and understand that everybody has different goals, and what my goals are and what your goals are and what the client's goals are three different goals, and each goal should have a different program associated with it.
Yeah. I will say that's a process that I've gone through and I'm still going through, of going through my own journey. And it's a little different because I've had this podcast for a while. And so it's like giving advice and talking to so many people. And I've learned so much by having so many guests on here. So that's kind of where I'm coming from transitioning into this being a profession of being, you know, a professional health coach, being a professional personal trainer. And then how do you translate that to one-on-one advice? And that is, I mean, that's a process.
Yeah,
when you think
hard.
of like, I like to go to the gym and work out, or even in me, I'm in my own head. Am I doing the right form? Am I doing the right thing even for myself? And then, you know, having multiple different clients, and each one of them is their own individual butterfly, and how like what is their body doing and what's the right thing for them. And with that being said, though, and this is just part of my process that you know about, of like, I don't want to have anybody do something that I can't do, or I don't know how it feels, or I don't do it. So it's like, I don't program things without having run through it myself, because I want to know how this feels, what's this working, am I getting the form right? If I'm programming a 30-minute workout, I want to do that 30-minute workout in my own time to be like, am I just smoking the hell out of them? Is this way too easy? Just to have my own sort of gauge, so whenever they're going through it, I can relate to what they're going through, of not, hey, I'm going to make you do 60 burpees today, get after it. I'm like, I would never do that. Right. God, that's horrible.
Yes. And it's, I think that's a great point, is every exercise can have validity in why you're doing it, but you need to know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and I would say, because I saw it on the internet, is not a good reason as to why you should be doing that exercise. Like, is that exercise specific for the goal that you're trying to achieve, whatever that goal may be, you know, and just having the why behind the exercises that you're selecting, I think, is a huge, undervalued, you know, thing. You can go online and type badass workout, and you'll get a laundry list of workouts that are going to smoke you.
Yeah.
Turn the treadmill up to 12 and try to run on it. That's going to smoke you too. That doesn't mean that it's doing anything for you. It's just, it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think that people misunderstand hard for effective. And, you know, that's one of the things that I think good coaches would educate clients on is, you know, hard and effective are two different things.
Yeah.
And effective for you is going to be completely different than effective for me and effective for someone else. So, you know, it's just kind of, again, going back to that spectrum and trying to realize where your client is, meet them where they're at, challenge them a little bit, but don't challenge them too hard.
Going to interrupt this conversation with Josh real quick to talk about another personal trainer and coach, and that is Sarah with Team Fit With Me, who has been my personal health coach for the past year and has been a part of this podcast for several years now. If you're looking for virtual one-on-one nutrition coaching and personal training with someone who specializes in functional health, including but not limited to all gut health conditions, thyroid diseases, PCOS, and hormonal dysfunction, then Sarah and her team with Team Fit With Me are going to be a great fit for you. They're going to get you some lab reads if that's what you want with their medical team. You can get meal plan add-on options reviewed by a registered dietitian. Plus, there's lots of community support, plus a food relationship coach partner who has also been on this podcast. So if you're looking for someone that knows their stuff and can help you through the whole process, then I highly recommend you check out Sarah and Team Fit With Me. Right now, you can get 10% off you can get 10% off month one of all packages, plans, and add-on services. Just make sure you use this link, which is teamfitwithme.com/poundthis, which you'll find in the show notes. So if you're in need of a good coach, trainer, accountability buddy, Sarah is your lady and her whole team with Team Fit With Me. So again, teamfitwithme.com/poundthis. Now let's get back to Josh. But I don't think you're really going to understand that until you start coaching people.
Exactly.
And just even going through the certification process, like you mentioned earlier, of, you get the nuts and bolts and stuff. Like you did the practice test with me for NASM before I did my official test, right? Because there's all this, like, you got to get it done. You only have so many chances, and you have to start paying to get other chances, or you get locked out, which is a lot of anxiety. And it was like all of these things, there's so much just memorization and crap that, I mean, it makes sense and it's useful somewhere, but it's like when it's an actual everyday life and you're working with real people, it's I don't know, it's just totally different. You just don't know until you're doing it. Like you just don't know what the actuality is until you're dealing with actually working with clients. And then as I've learned over the past year, and there's just so much more layers upon layers of being a trainer, of not only understanding the exercises and knowing what you're doing and knowing how to program and do all of those things, but then understanding that people don't feel like working out and they're going to cancel on you in the last minute, and figuring out scheduling, or somebody comes in and they're like, my knee hurts today, and everything that you had written down and planned for them, you're going to have to scrap that. Or like in the case here at 360 of like, I had programmed to use these specific tools and other trainers are using them right now, which gives me an anxiety attack of like, oh my God, because for me, just learning of like, I don't have this full Rolodex yet of, okay, I had this in mind, but here's 7 other things we could do instead. And I could get creative. I'm like, I know this one thing right now. Oh shit. And so it's like all of those sorts of things that you just hear about being a personal trainer, and you don't think about all of that stuff that goes into it, and talking to and being people's therapist and talking with them about hard days and the days they don't feel like being there, and helping like in just so many ways. It's such a more in-depth job. I mean, I would describe after doing this job, what I've been doing this, 8 months now. And it's not, I don't know, it's not like I even had some picture in my mind of what I thought a trainer would be like. I just kind of was like, I don't know. It's I
Let's
kind
jump
of
in and see.
Yeah, I've kind of came in with more of a blank canvas sort of thing, which is actually a perfect way to me segue into how I think about it. I mean, it's definitely an art form.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think that people know that or appreciate that when you hear the term personal trainer, unless you've had a really good one-on-one personal trainer, and you can kind of see that it is an art of like, if you're learning someone and you're building this painting all around each individual person. If you're a coach and a trainer that cares and is like trying to really help that person in the best way possible, instead of just like, hey, come in, I'm going to make you do 100 burpees, now get out of here.
Right.
And that you were just saying before we started recording how people don't think it's a real job, which kind of blows my mind, of like, grow up, get a real job. I'm like, what? I'm like, man, if you actually did this job, you'd be like, this is hard.
Yes. And you're exactly right. I mean, the art and the science of it, the science is the nut and bolts. That's getting the certification. And then the art is the human element.
Yeah.
When you start getting into training and programming, it's like you said, you program lower body. Somebody comes in, they got a hip issue or they got a knee, ankle issue. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
They're paying half hour, 45 minutes, whatever your session is. Like, that's time. They're paying for. What are you just going to stand around with your thumb up your butt?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
You got to be able to adjust and adapt. Like, to your point of, well, I had TRX pulls. Well, somebody's using the TRX. Oh, what do I do now? Do you stand there and wait for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, wait on that person to get done with their set? Or do you adjust and find something else? I don't know. It's the beauty and the beast of personal training is that there's so many layers to it that it just never gets boring. Like, you can always find something that you could get better at. You can always keep beating on your craft. You can keep polishing it and adding more tools to your toolbox. And, because I don't care how good your flat-headed screwdriver is. If you're trying to put a flat-headed screwdriver into a Phillips screw head, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You can beat it as much as you want. Just put that tool up, grab the Phillips screwdriver, and it works a lot better.
Yeah.
But if people don't have the arsenal of tools in their toolbox, then, it's going to limit the amount that they're going to be able to do. And I think that that's what good trainers bring to the table, is that they can constantly keep evolving and adapting. And then as we adapt and we grow, we help other people that are in our sphere, our clients or teammates or whatever the case may be. Hell, if you talk to the people that I started training when I started training and to what I'm training now, it's night and day different.
Yeah.
It's just, we constantly learn, constantly evolve. And, I think that the more at-bats that you get in lieu, is that the right word?
Finish the sentence.
Does that mean after like in conjunction with your training.
Gotcha.
Right. So you get your training. That's the first part. Then you need to get your at-bats. You need to start training some people. I'd recommend starting with friends and family, you know, people that are close to you, people that know that this is new for you. You're going to screw it up because you're going to be nervous. You're going to, oh no, what should I pick here? What should I pick there? And then start slowly adding in the layers of complexity to what it is that you want to eventually be doing. And then just try to train as many different people as you can, because you have, like you said, you have an idea of what you think training is. And then once you get into training, you're like, I don't like training those people at all. You may have a clientele that you think that you want to start training, and then you get in and you start training them and you're like, I don't like working with these people at all. I want to work with these individuals. You know? But if you didn't have that variety of people that you've worked with, then you'll never know who your tribe is, who you're speaking to, who jazzes you up. You know, because if you're jazzed up and you're passionate about who it is that you're working with, you're going to bring a way better service to that individual than, oh, this person's coming in. You know, that kind of thing. So,
well, and I think you just also kind of figure out also just even what direction you want to go to. Like you're in more of like, you know, corrections, like or correctional exercise, physical therapy, all of that sort of vibe. And that's definitely not me. Like what I've learned. So I really love the art part of it, which makes sense from my background.
Right.
The science part is what I struggle with. Like
you love joint angles.
Oh my God, no, I don't. I love the conversation. I love the motivation. I love having fun. I love to think of like, so many people think of exercise as painful and I don't want to go to the gym. I want to have like it be an experience. Like it's something you look forward to. Like this is a bright spot in the day, not like, oh God, I have to go there. And so or you just don't go at all. Like I love the conversation. I like talking about the food, all of that stuff. But then when it comes into like, just like what the exact muscles are doing and in your shoulder, I'm like, I know what I need to know with that, but I'm not a doctor. I can't break that all down. Right. And I don't know if I'll ever get there. I mean, I'm going to learn the most that I can, and I'm trying, and as much as my brain will allow me to absorb at once. But so it's one of those things too, where you just kind of learn like, whoa, what this even area of training am I really into? Is there something that you find like breathing exercises? Like you're in here, you're like, oh, imagine when you first started training, you didn't think that, you know, talking about breathing was going to light your brain up.
That was the biggest bro that you would ever find. Like I was reading Muscle and Fitness. You know,
what a douche.
Yeah. It was like, I mean, I played football. It was bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
It's just, I can remember it to this day that there was a guy that I was working with that he would wear those 5-fingered shoes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what are you doing? And it works the little muscles around your ankle, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, if you just work the big muscles, the little muscles will catch up. Now, fast forward, and I'm like, all right, everybody should start out with 5 minutes of belly breathing before we get into our exercises, you know. And it's just, I think that you're going to constantly evolve, and you're gonna find things that make that ignite a spark in you, that you're going to go down that rabbit hole, and you're going to take the pieces that you like about it, and then you'll come back out of the rabbit hole, and then you'll find another rabbit hole that you go down. And I think that that's what makes a trainer a really good trainer is, you know, you have to start with those intangibles like you were speaking of, you know, just can you talk to somebody? Can you get somebody excited about coming into the gym? Because a lot of people think of the gym and they think, ugh, God, I got to go to this painful place. You know, that's step one is we need to switch your intent behind when you come in to work out. Like, do you hate it? Do you dread it? Or do you look at it as an opportunity to make yourself better that day? Because that's going to be a way different exercise. If you're going into something and it's like, I dread this, I can't wait until it's over with, or man, I'm going to get better today. I'm going to get incrementally better. No matter how I feel when I walk in, I'm going to walk out just a little bit better. Those are two way different ways of approaching exercise, and you're going to get two different outcomes. I don't care what you're doing while you're in here. if your mindset shifts like that, that's a huge component of it.
Yeah.
It's being able to talk to your client about their mindset and being able to meet people where they're at on that. Those intangibles are, it just, there's so much complexity that goes into personal training. And to your point earlier, when people are like, when are you going to get a real job? It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea how hard it is to get somebody motivated that doesn't want to work out, or that has had an injury, or has tried a multitude of different things to achieve this goal that they think is impossible, to just be with them on that grind and on that journey and see those little achievements that they make that, everybody thinks of this big thing. And we've talked about this several times, of the big goal as being the thing, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And it's the little goals on a weekly basis that are the ones that I find really cool to see people achieve. It's like, man, you were doing 15 pounds when we started this. Now you're up to 50.
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge win, and the usually the bigger goals that people have are kind of the byproduct of doing those little things on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it a good trainer.
Well, that's when I'm sure she's going to listen to this. Hi, Amy. And I actually just asked her today during our session if she could write me a little blurb about it and take a picture if I could use this on the 360 social media. She was talking about how she gets boxes of paper delivered to her house because she has her own business, and how she could actually lift them and bring them in the house without any problems when she could before. I'm like, that stuff's awesome.
Yes.
Like, that's like, let's not worry about your pant size.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're moving things and you're like mobile and you're functional because you came in here and you got stronger. Like, things like that, people just, I'm guilty of it too. You just breeze right past and you're just like, oh, well, whatever. I don't
I'm
have
still a size X.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, but that's not the thing. And I think that, for somebody listening to this, like maybe the people that ask me this question that have, and I only know my own perspective as becoming a trainer with my background. So I know for me, and coming from a space of going through a journey myself and that changing my life so much that I wanted to do this for other people, that it becomes, I think you get stuck in your own head of like turning this into a job of like, when you can't just take your motivation and your mindset that you've learned and just like have somebody else have that. And you know exactly where they are because you've been there yourself, and you just feel like you can't find the words, or you just can't, like, you're like, can I just take a piece of me and put it in you? And like, so we can, that they want it, but how do you get them, again, the motivation piece. And I think lived through that, and then having people that are like, I want to go on this journey too, and it's not always connecting in the right ways, that I know, at least for me, I take it personal, and I'm like, I must not be doing a good job. And when it's not, because I've lived it myself, and it's all your own shit. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a hard piece of being a trainer and turning that profession, having gone through the process, is that how good things can be, and how it feels to feel good mentally and physically, and you want that so bad for someone else, but you can't do it for them. Mm-hmm. And that's a struggle. And so when I think that you do have these wins, that just makes it so much bigger of like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
And the one that I shared, I actually have to see if they get back to the gym since they got back from their trip. If they're listening to this, hi, Hannah and Claire. Of like, these girls started training with me when I first started training in the spring because they wanted to hike Mount Kilimanjaro in September. And they sent me a text a few weeks ago that they made it to the top. They texted me from Africa that they did it. And I was like, oh my God, they thought to text their personal trainer.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, stuff like that is just like, I don't know. I don't think that you can top those sort of things. Like, I don't think you can like even fully understand them until you live through that you've spent months working on something with somebody, and then you watch them hit that goal. And especially a goal like that of like, I want to have this life experience. I want to be strong enough to hike one of the tallest mountains in the freaking world. Can you help me get strong enough to do that? and you are able to help them do that, where it becomes so much more than all of this like aesthetic stuff that's usually associated with fitness. I don't know. That's super cool and super rewarding. And I think that you should have the expectation that that's not going to happen every day or even every month. But when you get those, you're like, oh, damn. Okay. Hell yeah. And it just keeps you going.
I've done those things that I've struggled with doing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, if we could just keep that end, not really the end goal, because the goals are always going to keep changing, but just whatever you're shooting for in that moment, and then just take it back to the day in, day out stuff of, you're not going to have that sitting on the top of Kilimanjaro feeling every single day.
Yeah.
But the more and more you push through the days that you don't want to do the thing that it is that you need to do to be able to get to that feeling, the better that feeling is going to feel once you achieve whatever that goal is that you're trying to achieve for that amount of time. Because then once you achieve that goal, you're going to set another goal.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the process of it. And yeah, I think that we could talk forever on that subject, because it is such a mindset shift. And it's, I think that a lot of people have the illusion that personal trainer is just easy. Well, it's easy for you. You're a personal trainer. It's like, no, we're all human. We all have these struggles. We all just wake up and we have the same 24 hours. And it's, what are you going to do with this 24 hours? And then you're going to go to bed and you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to maybe feel like shit tomorrow. And, and you're maybe not going to be as good as you were yesterday, but you can push a little bit. You can push it a little bit. And then wake up the next day and, you feel great. Push it a little bit harder. Make up for that day that you felt like crap. It's just the ebb and flow of it. I think that's the thing that I feel a lot of people are missing when they think about fitness. They think about fitness as, like you said, being this aesthetics, or I got this six pack, or I fit into these jeans. And it's not about like, I played with my kids over the weekend and my shoulder didn't hurt.
Yeah.
Like that is, to me, what fitness is.
Yeah.
It's being able to do the things that you want to do. And whatever you want to do is completely different than whatever I want to do. And if your thing is aesthetics, then that's your thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's just, I think that we put so much focus on that we miss the bigger picture of like, hey, do we just feel good moving through life?
Yeah.
And that's a good place to be.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and that's just even doing the physical act of training is just a physical job anyway. And that's when people are like, oh, you make that look so easy. I'm like, I did it twice. Like, you know what I mean? Just to show how I'm doing exercise. But then you're doing that twice for every client.
Yeah.
And you're getting like, I know for me, I'm averaging like 20,000 steps a day. But Nick, one of the other trainers here, is like averages like 50,000 steps a day. It's like bonkers. So it's like, on top of like our own workouts. So it is a physically demanding job on top of a mentally demanding job. But back to the point of goals, I read this not too long ago, and I really like this thought, or I guess this saying, is that confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself.
Yeah.
And just think of that as the goal or the wins of like, I said I was going to go to the gym today and I did. Or I said I was going to drink an extra glass of water today and I did. I said I was not going to be on my phone for an hour before bed and I did it. It's those sorts of things that compound, that become habits, that become, we're going to get you to that Kilimanjaro moments of just like, I think I need to do this to feel good in whatever way. This is a change I'm choosing to make, and then actually keeping that promise to yourself. Because, motivation is fleeting. Nobody's motivated every single day. It's those little things of like, well, I said I was going to go to the gym today, which, is accountability. I'd say for most people to have a personal trainer. Oh, yeah. Other people are like, I don't care. I'm going to cancel last minute anyway. Don't do that.
Irritate your trainer a lot.
Yeah. I don't know if people think of like, oh, they're going to get the half hour off. They're probably happy I'm canceling. No, we're not.
Yeah.
At least I'm not.
Yeah.
Especially when I sat through rush hour traffic to get here. But
Amanda's a little bitter about this.
I am, dude.
Subject.
and not many people do that. There's been a couple people that have abused that a little bit more than others, but I also gave them lots of rope for the abuse. So that's a learning lesson for me. But it's those things of I said I was going to go, or I said I was going to do this, and keeping that train rolling. I mean, that's where I've used this example a ton on this podcast, and it's not a sexy thing, but that was a decision I made myself to floss every night before bed. Of like, hey, I get cavities all the time. I would rather not do that. I'm telling myself I'm going to floss every single night before bed, no matter what. And I've been doing that for a decade now. And it's just like, that's not sexy. That's not Instagram worthy. That is a promise to me. So I feel like it's a healthy choice for me. I feel good about it. Oh, then I have an email. Maybe I should close that. And, but I feel good and I feel more empowered and motivated because that is a promise I made to myself that I stuck with. Yep. And it's not sexy and it's not for anyone else but me. Those are the things that I think that we miss out on a ton. Like, it doesn't seem like it's going to make a world of difference to drink one more glass of water a day, right. But it does, or to drink one less Red Bull or any of those things. And it's like, oh, well, that's not going to do anything. So I might as well not do it at all. And that attitude, I mean, if you tell yourself how many times you've had that conversation with yourself, and if you're still in the same place, and obviously that method doesn't really work.
Right.
So, right. And that's where I think, again, going back to the personal training and the coach, is if you have somebody that can kind of give you clarity on some of those things. It's not just like, oh, well, you went hit the drive-through today. Oh, well, you're a turd. I mean, what am I even training you for? Which I see people on TikTok and stuff like that. Trainers, like, I mean, they're jokes, but like smacking food out of people's hands and stuff like that. And I'm like, God, that doesn't seem very motivating. But to be like, okay, well, hey, well, that's a choice. And how do you feel about it? And like unpacking those sorts of things. If, I think that's what the coaching part is having these conversations through what choices are you making? What are your feelings around it? If that's something you want to change, how do we instill real change around that instead of me bullying you into not doing it anymore? You know what I mean? And I don't know, that stuff's important to me anyway.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I think that stuff's huge. To go back to the topic about how to become a personal trainer, I think that's the biggest thing is just, get the knowledge, get the certification,
maybe shadow somebody, intern.
Yeah. Like do your research on it. Like different certifications are going to speak to different people on different ways. Like if you're a very sciencey person, ACSM is going to be more your jam, or ACE, and they all have the science element to it. I'm not saying that part of it, but it's just the verbiage is going to speak to different people in different ways. So just do your research on what certification that you're going to spend your hard-earned money towards.
Yeah.
Get the certification and then start to apply it. Just start to train as many people as you can and different varieties of people, and start to understand what training is and what you like and what, gets you excited about training, and then learn more about that. And then that could evolve and change into something completely different, and just kind of be a sponge as much as you can, because you're not going to have your method in the beginning of it. You're going to have, you're just a sponge, and you got to take it all in. And then oh man, I like that cue. Ooh, that works for me. That makes sense to me. Use that.
Yeah.
Oh, I like this cue from this person. I'm YouTube and I'm looking up exercises. That doesn't look right to me. It could be right for them, but it doesn't make sense to you. Don't use it. Use something else. There's multiple ways to get there. I think that everybody has this false idea that there's one way to work out, and it's like there's multiple ways to work out, and there's multiple right ways to work out. It's it's not right or wrong. It's to a degree. There are some things that I see out there that I'm like, that's just inappropriate. You shouldn't be doing that. But for the most part, there's a lot of good coaches out there, but there's a lot of information out there. So you just got to kind of sort through it. Like you were alluding to, you see it on the internet, see it in the book, see it in the gym, try it on yourself. Where do you feel it? Okay. Go back through the exercise, looking at it. Is that where they said that you should feel it? Okay, yeah, that's where I feel it. Cool. Now start to apply it on some other people. Can you get other people to feel it in the exact area that you were feeling it? Yeah, all right, test, retest. We've been doing this for 4 to 6 weeks. Have we seen progress with it? Yeah, cool, keep doing it. Oh, we're not seeing progress. Change it up. it's just, you got to constantly just adapt to whatever program it is that you're doing. I think that would be my spiel on it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a whole other topic to even go into, of just another part of the art of it is just the cueing and knowing how. That's a thing that is a struggle for me, because my whole career has been communications. So like words are important to me, and figuring out the right correction, ways to put words, as I'm fumbling all over them right now. But how to describe what's in your head, and getting somebody to understand how to like use their core, move their body a certain way. And when I can't get the words correct so they understand me, it's so frustrating.
Oh yeah.
And I
feel like I'm speaking Chinese all the time. People are just looking at me like, what?
But that's what's so good to ask like the other trainers here, and to have like good resources and people to bounce stuff off of like, I can't think of the words to use. I'm having, I was talking to Nick, who's been helping me here at the gym, of like, I'm having problems with multiple clients that I can't have them understand what's in my head of how them to have this correct position for a push-up. Should give me some new words to use so it can help me help them to do this, and that to have people to bounce those ideas. And again, this is all stuff that you don't think about when you're just working out for yourself and you're doing this, until you have other people, of trying to make other people understand the vision in your head and how their body needs to be. And, even for me, of like, here, this is what your body's doing, and I'll mimic what they're doing. But this is where you need to be. Some people that works with, some people it doesn't. And so then you have to find this right combination of words for each individual. So they're like, oh, okay, I get it. So it's like every single person has a different set of cueing that makes sense to them. Like Nick was just showing me yesterday, walking me through some Romanian deadlifts. And I liked his cue of like, think about you're closing the car door with your butt. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. That's a good one. I'm going to use that. Let's see how many people that works for, because it's going to be a percentage. It's not going to be everybody. That makes sense in my head. And when I get to somebody that cue doesn't make sense in somebody else's head, then I'm going to have to find a new configuration of words to how do I explain to them, this is what I need your body to do. And that goes into the art part, which that part is, even though it's a struggle, is really fun for me.
Because it's amazing when you do get those light bulbs that come on. You say something and it does spark that in somebody, and they're like, oh, and then they do it and they feel their hamstrings or they feel their glutes for the first time, and you're like, yes, that's it. Do that every time,
Yeah.
That to me, that's a huge win, is when you can get somebody to get into a position that they haven't felt, maybe ever, and they feel it, and then you're like, yes, that's what you do that. And then it's just repetition, that's training.
Yeah.
Feel it where you need to feel it, and do that over and over again until you don't feel it there, and then stop and rest and do it again.
Yeah. Well, this is a whole nother topic I don't want to get into, but a lot of stuff that I'm reading right now is even talking about when you can't feel your body, which is I have issues with, of not having that mind muscle connection, and how that plays into then your brain and the traumas and stuff you've been through there, or your own relationship with your body. The well runs infinitely deep on all of these sorts of subjects. And I think that's, if you're interested in all of these things, and obviously if you're this far into this podcast, you are, then there's always something to learn, which is I like to learn. And that's where I think it can be really incredibly frustrating when you're jumping into something new, and it is just so new, and there is no like automatic response. There is no like, do
it this way.
Yeah. Or like, there's just where the basics are just so ingrained into you that you just run on autopilot on so many things. When you're learning the autopilot part, like that's when you're banging your head up against the wall, until, again, like anything else, you create a habit and you've got that done. And then you're like, okay, well, that's running in the background always. And now I can build upon that, which I feel like I'm starting to get to that level a little bit more now, which feels more comfortable and less like, oh my God, and overwhelming.
And you're always going to have that. Like, for anybody out there that just starts out, you're going to have that, oh my God, feeling. That's normal. It's you just got to go through it. It's the learning, it's the growing pains. It's you're in it, and you're going to think like, I don't know what I'm doing. you trust your learning, trust your education, and then just apply it.
Yeah.
And, I would say that when you're just starting out, just don't overload people. Like, so many people give people such a high level exercise, and it's like, they're not capable of doing that. Like, bring it back. Just, if you're uncomfortable or unsure of something, just don't load it heavy.
Yeah.
If you just take anything away from this podcast and you're going into training, if you can abide by that rule, you're probably going to be better than most. There's just so many people get this 3-day certification. Next thing you know, they're throwing 225 on somebody's back, and it's like, oh, what are you doing? Like, stop doing that.
Yeah, try not to injure somebody.
Yes, that's
Rule one.
objective. That is number one. That's number one. Do not injure someone.
So I'm going to end this podcast with my questions. When normally I begin it with these. I have my Pound Town questions for my Patreon podcast, which you can find at patreon.com/PoundTown podcast. Josh, choose a category: dreams, life lessons, exposed, courage, beliefs, or self-awareness.
Ooh, let's go dreams.
Dreams. No one's chosen that one yet. Okay. Oh God, not that question.
Good start.
What's at the top of your bucket list, and how will you make that happen?
Man, I don't really have a bucket list. I guess the bucket list that I would like to see all of the national parks in the United States. Like, I think the United States has such a vast beauty within it that we kind of take for granted. It's like we live in Cincinnati, and the Ohio River's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But everybody's like, oh, the Ohio River, it's so gross, but it's like, it's a huge river. It goes clear to the ocean, but we just kind of take it for granted because we live beside it. Or like, I'd like to go up to Cuyahoga Falls and see that. And I would say that just doing it, that would be the objective.
Yeah.
So
that's where, for me, I would say, travel as well. There's a lot of stuff I want to see, especially in the West. But I just love traveling. And I'd say in COVID, and not only COVID, but just going through a life transition, job transition and stuff like that just is not as conducive to travel as I was doing in the past several years. I was all over the place several years ago, like multiple trips, like in a row. Was it in 2017? I went from California to Austin to California, Alaska, Austin, Nashville. Like, I was just bam, 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 like everywhere. And I don't know, I like that sort of stuff. And there's not just national parks I'd like to see, but just so many things like Utah and Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, sort of that sort of stuff, a lot of ocean stuff. But yeah, travel things. And that's where it's like making it happen is just trying to find the time to make that happen and making financial sense and not just being like, oh, well,
right.
I feel like
being maverick with it.
Yeah. I feel like going to Moab for a week and I'm just going to put it all on a credit card. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would probably say something similar. A lot of other bucket list stuff I'd say that I have kind of jumped to and just gone for, where it's just like, I wanted to have this radio career and jump into it. And anytime an opportunity came to like move to a new state and have a new job, I'm like, well, yeah, YOLO, let's see what happens. Or walk away from that industry and do that, or take any sort of opportunities that come my way where I'm like, well, there's a door open in front of me. Why not walk through it and see what happens? So I'd say a lot of those kind of bucket list things that I'd say that I'm pretty good at accomplishing if the opportunity's there, of trying to jump after it. But more travel, our life is so short and there's just so much to see. And so, yeah, I'd say probably similar. On that note, Cincy360fitness.com. I'm accepting new clients. You're not, right?
Nope. I am not.
Or if anybody has any questions about becoming a personal trainer, or if they were interested in like learning to become a personal trainer here at the gym, is that a question somebody can ask you about?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll help out in any way possible. I've I know what I know, and I can help others along the way. And, just reach out, ask any questions that you have, and I'll try to answer them. And if I can't answer them, somebody on the team may answer them, or I'll get back to you.
Info@Cincy360fitness.com.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks, Josh.
AmandaValentineBites.com.